there's a ton of valuable lessons that can be learned when students are actually providing feedback to each other rather than relying on automated feedback. I don't know about for you, but for myself, I started teaching when I was in high school. And so I taught a middle school class with the first drum instructor that I ever had. And it was like a summer school class. And I realized that I needed to learn how to say things in many different ways in order to be able to help different students who had different issues with their drumming technique or whatever. By learning at something and like holding a concept as like a gem that you could look at from many different angles or many different facets and kind of explore it, it allowed me to better understand those concepts and practices. And the same thing can be done with computer science. So yeah, an automated system might be very helpful for like homeschool students or students who are working on their own at home. But if they are in a space where they have peers, I would argue that students can get more out of teaching each other. Not necessarily learning from their peers, but actually teaching their peers. So even though it might be better for the individual student to learn from an automated feedback system because it's much faster, they're able to get right into an answer and be able to move on with their next step, my guess is that students will learn more in the long run if they learn how to teach their peers. Which is why, like, when I was in the classroom and I was doing this rhizomatic approach where if there was like 30 kids in the class, they were working on 30 different projects with several different programming languages, etc., the students had 4 steps that they followed. So the first step was to check the built-in like manuals, the resources, etc. So like RTFM, so read the free manual will be the family-friendly way of phrasing that. The next 2 steps were to ask like their peers. And then the final step was to ask myself if I was not working with somebody. If I was working with somebody, you got to repeat the first 3 steps. This made it so students were helping each other out quite a bit. And if they happened to get to step 4 and I knew somebody else could answer that question, I'd be like, oh, Johnny, you have an issue with that bug? Well, Susie knows how to solve that. Susie, can you come over here and help Johnny out with this? Because again, Susie's going to learn a lot by exploring that concept and reinforcing when they are teaching Johnny the same thing that they had an issue with earlier. This excerpt of the CSKA podcast was from episode 197, which is titled Effects of Automated Feedback in Scratch Programming Tutorials. You can listen to the full episode by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app or by going to jaredoleary.com.